To adopt, we'll do that.
Mr. Chair, I offer a motion that we adopt the minutes.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes are adopted. New business, item number 1, approval of disbursement from District 7 Improvement Funds. Councilman Lanier.
This is going to the Ivy Foundation. Donated money before to them. They are doing training for middle school athletes, high school athletes, and mentoring, study halls. Now they have implemented a 7-on-7 team that travels with middle school and high school athletes. Also give them opportunity to be recruited and things like that. So we're dispersing these funds to help with uniforms, travel expenses, things of this nature. I think when we talk about helping with stopping violence, I go back to Project Unity when we think about these are the things we do. We get kids busy and active in the community and keep them off the streets. We're doing our part right here, so I want to donate that to the Ivy Foundation, who's showing schools from every district.
Cool.
Kids from every
What amount, Cassius?
$3,000.
Okay, gentlemen, any questions or motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, disbursement is approved. Item number 2, final adoption of 2022 supplemental clean water SRF and drinking water SRF.
Excellent.
I got that
Yes,
right?
sir. You got that right. If council will remember, about a year ago right now, we came to the finance committee asking if we could apply for the supplemental SRF amount for projects that we had been approved for previously with ADEM. The reason that we did this previously is because we knew that we were going to go out for a bond issuance, but we knew that we weren't going to do the bond issuance until June or July of that summertime, and we kind of wanted to get these projects moving as quickly as possible. Well, I think the best laid plans sometimes don't quite come to fruition, and the timing of the SRF really slowed down there, and we got the bond money ahead of time and not the SRF money ahead of time. So we finally do have the final ordinances and the closing documents for the SRF that we applied for literally a year ago. And what you have in front of you is kind of the general financial plan that's all combined together. That was the bond issuance that we did this last summer for water and sewer, plus.
That's the one pager?
Yes, sir, that is. So the top section is going to be the bond issuance, and then you'll see the clean water SRF and the drinking water SRF, the two little sections below that. So these are the projects as we have laid them out. These were the original projects that we came to you with and proposed to you back last year. The clean water and drinking water SRF projects are the ones that we applied to ADEM for. We have to issue the SRF debt for those ones that we did the application for. I am going to give council a caveat to say that obviously priorities and project needs change over a 12-month span. So we are going to be reviewing all of the projects that are listed, both under bond issuance and under SRF, and seeing if we can move some things around for the new priorities that we have. Obviously, Ms. Michael is here to possibly answer that.
Can that SRF
Sure.
money be moved?
We can apply for it to be,
We
but
have
they
to
have to give us
reapply.
approval. Yes, sir. Well,
So this originally came to us in response to already approved, this is here now for already approved projects.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if we reprioritize, we have to reapply.
Well, we just have to apply for the change
To change.
to ADEM. Yes.
That's usually not a big deal though, is it?
I'm going to ask Chris Crawford to answer that one because I have never been through one of those.
What was that question again?
That if we apply to ADEM to change projects in SRF, what level of difficulty is that?
It's not too bad. As long as we already had the prior environmental approvals and everything done, we should be good.
Okay, and I didn't mean to sidetrack. Keep
No,
going.
absolutely. So that's the caveat that I wanted to give is that you will see a couple of asterisks on the page, and those projects are really going to be the ones that we're looking to possibly reprioritize. A full presentation of what that reprioritization would look like will come to you to Projects Committee via Ms. Michael's team, not necessarily financially, and then we will probably follow up on the back end to remove some of that money around in the funding. So that's why you will see a couple of items on here, especially those 3 little asterisks in the middle of the page. We're not suggesting to go ahead and budget those just yet because they are in that reprioritization consideration bucket.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? Carly, what will the time frame be to revisit all this if we get that presentation in April or whatever we're talking about? When do we have to make those decisions?
There's no definite time frame to make those decisions. I can imagine that Ms. Michael and her team would want to do that as quickly as they can.
Yeah, we know which projects that we're wanting to change and justifications as to why we want to change them. So, but the only thing it would hold up, the only one that it would hold up would be, the clean water money. So we just wouldn't start those projects yet.
I don't think there's a financial time limit on it. We're just alleviating the burden of so much stuff in the last 3-month run-up, right?
And trying to space some things out a little bit better, yes, sir. And the reason that we're having to do this, I do understand that we're probably telling you a couple of details of what we want to do before we're approving the original issuance. But again, that's because it's taken so long to get up to this point. We need to issue the debt with the applied projects first. Then we can kind of come around on the back end, even though they already know what they want to do. We have to at least work the process as it stands. And right now, this is just final adoption of the debt. None of that is clean, and I understand that.
But we're doing this with the understanding we're probably gonna shuffle some projects around.
Yes, sir.
Based on changing needs, or maybe we need to do this project before the other one because of some other pressing need. That's, in that case, will be coming in April. is
Yes,
what you're
sir.
saying.
Mr. Chair. So Carla, once we, shuffle the projects around based on need, what happens if a project comes over what we've already, the issuance proposal?
Well, if it comes in over, then we can't fund that
Okay,
project.
gotcha.
And I do think that the way that we've laid this out, Ms. Michael and her team know the dollars that she has to work with.
Right.
She's not gonna come back with something astronomical because she already knows what her parameters are.
Gotcha.
Carly, as far as the contingency, Walt was talking earlier, that $7.972 million is what we're talking about, contingency, about maybe pulling some money for Snow Hinton.
So this is 2022B. He's talking about
B.
2022A.
Okay,
Sorry,
okay.
yes.
But it's a similar contingency number that we were talking
It
about,
is at
right?
7.5 million even on
Okay.
A, yes.
And 7.9, whatever, am I reading that right? 7.9?
7.9 after all of this will be done in B, yes,
In
sir.
B.
Yes.
Okay.
So what we're being asked to do today is push upwards to full council
Mm-hmm.
an endorsement of borrowing through SRF the 7.6 million of clean water and the
12 million.
12 million of drinking water SRF funds at 1.99 for
20
10 or
years.
20 years.
Yes, sir, that's
That-
correct.
That's the item on here. Understand it, nod north and south, push it to council to approve.
You got it.
Any other questions? Chris,
Yes, sir.
if we do any reprioritization of projects, is that 199 still valid, or is that up in the air?
Still valid.
Still valid? Okay. All right, any other questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Excellent.
Recommendation to adopt the supplemental CWSRF and DWSRF is approved. Western Riverwalk funding proposal. Mayor Maddox and Ms. Standish.
Mayor Maddox is not here, and so I will be handling this. If you will, I can hand this back out, but this is the exact same handout that you got last week with, with the build grant and the Western Riverwalk in general. If you will recall, one of the issues was that with the John Plot contract that was approved via Projects Committee just a few moments ago, we will be over budget in the Western Riverwalk project total. And then Brandy's gonna have a little bit of what the Western Riverwalk build project alone would look like just to be able to award the John Plot contract amount. So as you can see at the top, we have like our already set budget for the build project is $21 million. So far, we have spent $14.6 million approximately. That leaves us about $6.5 million of available budget.
Where are you on the spend?
I'm sorry,
Which-
on this page.
Okay.
Um,
All right, 14.6.
Yes, sir. So 14.6 of total spent and encumbered, so we have about 6.5 million in available budget for the project. The John Plot contract is 8.8. So our budget shortfall is about 2.3 million. We are proposing to cover those costs just to be able to award that contract with the bottom proposed funding updates. Closing out the River District Park project will be about 591,000. And I'm sorry, that's a typo below you, but that's also closing out of the Northern Riverwalk project is 421,000. The 2020A bond contingency, which is where all of these projects currently sit, is about 1.1 million. And then the leftover amount, 225 grand, we're proposing to come from the Elevate contingency, that bottom line reserve amount.
What would that elevate contingency, is that O&M money?
No,
Or
sir,
is that true contingency?
it's true
Something we
contingency.
didn't think of pops up.
It's true contingency for right now. Like if something were to pop up within Elevate, pulling it from there. It's about 3.4 million as we sit today.
Before this.
Before this, yes, sir.
And the 2020A bond contingency, is that 1.1 clear it out, or is there
Yes,
still more money?
that'll wipe it out.
Okay. Budget of 15.5, 348.
Now, I will say that this amount will only award the John Plot contract. We do have the other portion, the other component of the project that you'll see on this sheet, the moorings down here at the bottom. It's about 3.5 million total. We will, within the mayor's April 18th proposal, he will clear that, his proposal will clear that obstacle as well. So we will be able to have a full budget amount for the project at that time. Just to be able to award the contract to John Plot right now is what I'm proposing with this
So
piece.
the plots 8 and change takes us 2.3 over, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then the moorings is forecast to be how much?
3.5.
3.5. And that's still just a budget forecast, right? That's not, we don't.
We don't have bids
any
yet.
Bids back.
Correct.
And that can't be modified, right? Isn't that a component that the grant was based on that can't be waived or changed?
I will say that the moorings in and of themselves is a grant component that the award was given on. However, we will try to find each efficiency possible within that grant award that we can use on that component. At some point, some moorings will have to be done. And what those look like, I mean, that's what the current piece of that project.
Where is the moorings on this sheet?
The very bottom gray section.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
You see, it says it right there in the.
The moorings right here.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Ms. Sandy.
So, really what we're proposing to do is just, the budget revisions that are in front of you today are going to be to close out River District Park, to close out Northern Riverwalk, to apply the 2020A bond contingency, and then to apply that small piece of the Elevate contingency.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
How much was left in the elevate contingency after this? 1 million?
3.3.
So it was 3.4, so about 3.2, 3.1, 3.2. And and that will
Maybe
also,
watching out for Carlton Park.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I got a lot of projects.
I'm gonna look out for this.
Yeah.
so I will say that, so when the mayor comes with his, capital proposal April 18th, it will encompass all of those things. And so you'll be able to see what the full contingency really is and how he's proposing to apply it, and how you guys would like to apply it. You can kind of come to that table together.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And so the next two items will actually be the budget revisions for those. So the 2020A warrant budget revision, number 1, is just those items: closing out River District Park, closing out Northern River Walk, and applying the contingency.
Okay, any questions on that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item number 5, elevate Tuscaloosa budget revision number 2. This is just moving the 224.
So it is moving the 224, but it is also creating some money for the Sokol Park overage that was discussed.
How much?
It is, get down to it.
Page 45.
Uh-huh.
Yes, sir. Page 45. So the Sokol Park will be 1.8 million that we're applying. That will be closing out the Elevate contingency completely, and then adding in some sales tax dollars to get us up to what we collected last year, which we have needed to do anyway.
So,
Part of our-
given the tabling of the Sokol Park discussion and projects,
That doesn't have anything to do with that.
no, not connected? Okay.
That's number 1, isn't it? Or is that number 2 that we're doing?
So that is
Second and number 2.
that's part of, I guess, tabling of Sokol Park from projects. This would set the budget for Sokol Park to be able to award that contract,
Yeah, okay.
which you can go ahead and do ahead of time. And even if the project does not move forward for the contract, we can then take that money back out.
Or we can wait. Wherever you rather do.
I'd rather wait on the money piece till we have the projects piece. Does that upset any timetables, Carl?
So if we're going to award plot, then I will probably need to put
Well,
an elevate.
We're going to award plot.
So what I will do is I will create an elevate budget revision, that will be, we'll probably need to pull the current elevate budget revision off, withdraw that, and I'll have to have, a suspended rules item for that.
Okay, let's have some discussion here.
Well, and if we, for some unknown reason, decided to not approve that project, then we would have to come back, you'd have to change.
I'll come back with another budget
You'd have to do
revision.
another budget revision anyway. I think you're just setting it up, but it wouldn't be spent until it's approved, right?
No, sir, we wouldn't
You
be
can't
able to
do it
spend anything
till
until the
we approve
contract is approved anyway.
So it's probably okay.
Promise?
Oh, no, absolutely, sir, I don't, I wouldn't do that.
I'm
But she
okay.
can't spend it till
I'm
we
okay
approve
with
it.
the item as is.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item is approved. Does that bring us to quarterly budget report?
Yes, sir, it does, and I'm going to, because the mayor is not here, I'm gonna throw it to Ms. Sheep to do the revenue section.
And we get this big fat, okay.
Becky, as we look at this is the first quarter, right?
I'm sorry, yes,
This-
sir,
This is the first quarter result.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry, sorry about that.
Just making sure I'm clear about that right. October to December 31.
Right, October, November, and December.
Yep, okay.
All right, I'm gonna jump to this major revenues page. This is the general fund. So yes, for the first quarter, we've collected about 30% of our major revenues budget. So I would say that kind of exceeds our 25% threshold, so those first 3 months. So I'd say that we're exceeding expectations. One thing to note.
So, Ms. Chief, on the 25%,
Yes, sir.
is that just an arithmetic projection, or do we have changes in the annual flow that we take into account?
No, sir, that's just taking into account the 3 months, yes, sir. But I would say, taking a look at December, I think one thing to note is you will see that we are starting to kind of like flatline against prior year. So our collections are very similar to where we were in prior year. So I think that's just something to take into account, and track as we move forward throughout the year. Okay, so sales tax, we have collected 28% of our overall budget, so of our $45 million budget, so $12.3 million as of December. Please stop me if anyone has any questions.
Say that again, please. Sales tax
Yes, sir.
of our 45 projected sales tax, and that's purely our portion.
Yes, sir, this is city sales tax, so this does not include general fund or any county
Doesn't
sales tax.
include any from the county.
No, sir. Mm-mm. So $12.3 million year to date. Use tax, we've collected about 30% of our overall budget, so again, we're meeting expectations there. That's 1.5 million compared to the prior year at 1.3. SSUT, we've collected about 32%. That continues to exceed expectations. I think one thing to note here, in December, we collected about $700,000, which is our highest collections, monthly collections that I know of, that I'm aware of. Property tax, we've collected about 69%. Typically, that's remitted to us by the county around February, end of February timeframe, so we should have an indication of where we stand next month when we have this report completed. Rental tangible tax, we've collected about 27%, so continuing to meet expectations. Lodging tax, again, 27%, so I'd say we're exceeding expectations there. That's 2.8 million compared to prior year of 2.6. I think we have about a $10.5 million budget for lodging tax. Dwelling tax, this is the 1%. You can see that we collect that quarterly. So we've collected about 33% of budget, so $1.2 million for the first quarter. So that does not include the, I'm sorry?
Part of that is that 1%, part's at 2 to 3.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. The
Dwelling tax, am I thinking of the right?
so we have the 1%, and then we have the additional the 3% that we charge for student-oriented housing.
Right.
That's in a
And
separate
all in
account.
there, or is that just the 1%?
That's just the 1%.
Just the
Yes, sir.
1%.
We have the additional. We have the 3% in a separate account for the public safety pay plan. All right, short-term rental tax, that continues to exceed expectations. We're at about 46% of budget already. For the year, I think we have about a $400,000 budget there, and we've collected about $184,000. Yes, sir.
October, November, December's the bomb, right?
Did you say
Yes, sir.
something about the audit revenues being off the charts? Why is that?
Audit revenue.
Because we have an awesome audit team.
We have an awesome audit.
Well,
I'm not,
I
I'm
already
not
knew that.
lying.
True.
That's absolutely the 100% truth is that
Well,
they
hey,
But I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
I love
it is,
that.
wow.
Yes, sir. I don't
That's a
have
huge
that
difference.
report in front of me, but
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, you had $500,000 of money collected in November, and the year before it was 36.
Well, I just, so, and Becky oversees that team as well.
Wow.
And so I just want to say that we were given a mandate to really kind of go after some bigger fish in the last 2 years. And this year, those have been paying some dividends. But I will say that we have 3 auditors right now, really. 3 to cover the entire city of all this commercial activity that you're seeing. And so the amount of audits that they can complete and the time that they can complete them, and that's what we see, it's phenomenal.
Is that a combination of business license audits and all other kinds of audits?
It is.
yes, sir.
Any
It's
kind of audit.
everything.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Maybe we need to hire one more auditor.
Might need to help in the water department. What do you think, Cameron? That might help.
We have one of our people that worked on the audits in the water department now.
They are awesome. I can't wait to see those numbers.
I
That'll be
say we
awesome.
just put them on
That's
commission.
really, that's.
There you go.
Hire with an incentive. What do you think? That might be a good idea.
Commission,
Maybe if it's the-
That's awesome.
somebody might transfer over there if they.
Okay,
got-
Ms. G,
Sorry,
move
Mr.
the
Chairman.
Okay,
change.
That was
sorry.
great.
Okay, so business licenses, these are due February 15th. So we should have more data for you, I think, probably April, May timeframe. We should know where we stand.
Nobody pays until the time.
So building permits.
Sorry, business been
Flip to
waiting.
that page. Building permits, we've collected about 20%, so that does fall below that 25% threshold. If you'll recall, last year, we were down a little bit in building permits. This year, we continue to see a slowdown.
The interest rate.
Ms. Price did mention to me that, you know, she feels, what she's heard is developers have, you know, higher material costs right now. So that could be possible, that could be part of the slowdown. We did reduce that budget this year by about 10% of prior year actuals. But I really think we need at least 6 months of data before we can,
That's the
I
last.
think we need at least 6 months of data before we can really kind of understand where
So we
where we
reduced
are.
it 10% from last year.
Yes, based on last year actuals.
And last year, we hit under what we were forecasting.
Yes, sir. I think it was a couple $100,000 under. County sales tax, that's in line with what we saw in city sales tax, about 28% collection, so I think we're on track there. Elevate Tuscaloosa, so of course in line with sales and use tax and general fund, we've collected about 28% of those budgets. So about 6.2 million for December year-to-date in sales tax, and 791,000 for use tax.
Can I ask another dumb question?
Yes, sir.
Our garbage collection revenues are up a pretty good bit. Are those new customers, or what are we, I mean,
So rate increase.
Rate
oh, the
increase.
rate increase?
Yes, sir.
Well, duh, that makes sense,
I
sorry.
told you.
I'm glad. That's a pretty big chunk.
Yes, that's the rate increase.
Why there's not a slide there. I guess I ought to clue in.
Does that finish our general fund, sir?
Yes, sir, that finishes general fund and elevate.
Then if you would you give us the big takeaway trend you noticed there?
I would say big takeaway is, again, we are starting, you know, in terms of like sales tax, county sales tax, we're starting to flatline a little bit against prior year. That could be an indication of inflation slowing or consumer spending slowing, but that's something I think we really need a little bit more data on to really understand that.
And for sales tax, pure sales tax, it's 45 and 5, 45-ish direct to us and 5-ish from the county for the quarter.
Total dollars, that's what you're asking.
Back up a slide or two.
Go back to county.
County sales tax.
So our,
Yeah, 45 sales tax, that we collect.
And then 5-ish from the county, 5.5.
And that would be-
So 50 million in pure sales tax. And then we had our discussion on our conference call. And I make the point just so the council members will bear in mind, if we ran at just under 10% inflation last year, part of what we're seeing, and I think you said sales tax actually flattened out, right?
it has started to. We still have a little bit of an increase in December, but it's very similar to prior year.
But remember, those are based on the total amount of the sale, and if consumer prices are up 9.6% over the last year, that's telling you some part of the story. We, Ms. Standridge and Chief and I discussed that deeper at an economic level, and we don't know all of it, but just bear in mind, that's impacting this too, as long as inflation stays up. What else?
I mean, other than that, I would say that as of right now, we are tracking well in all of the other major revenues for the most part, other than building permits that I've mentioned.
And Becky, that would track us towards what revenue number at the end of the year on the general fund side?
What was our overall budget, 170,
177?
177? Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, so water and sewer fund major revenues. So as of December, we've collected about 24% of our total budget, so that does fall just slightly short of that 25%. Jump to water revenues, so collections of about $8 million as of December. think the budget was about 30 or so million, 33 million. So it's difficult to say at this point why that is, why we're a little bit under. It could be that it's the slower months of the year. So I think that, again, we really need a few more months of data to really give a good assessment.
But nobody's gonna run a sprinkler system anymore.
And we're tracking towards what total revenue on the water and sewer side at the end of the year?
The budget is 33.8 million for water, excuse me,
Water,
for water. Sewer revenues, sewer budget is 25 million.
so 42, 30,
I'm sorry, about 33 for water and 25 for
so
sewer.
58-ish. That's
One
what we
seventy-seven.
think we're, 58-ish and 177
Yes, sir.
is what we're on trajectory for,
Yes,
correct?
sir. Mhm.
Yes, I would say that we are on trajectory to make budget, with everything that we have shown. And one of the, you're asking about the general overall thoughts. So I just wanna say this, is that we are on track to make budget. We are not on track to make surplus.
Gotcha.
That's the consideration of the overarching picture.
Yes.
Where your surpluses come from is this gap. This gap is where your surplus will come from, because what we do is we budget at the prior year level.
So do you think that surplus, that we were talking about, we know inflation is accountable for some portion of this. Do you think we absorbed, that we saw most of that in the surplus we're just having?
I think that
And I ask that because you remember, prices jacked up,
Mhm.
was it 20? Like the second half, late 21 into
Early
early
21.
20, yeah.
most of 22 saw the inflationary price increases, yes, sir, but yet you
After the
didn't see the
election.
consumer slowdown. I do think that in the last quarter, what you're seeing is a little bit of consumer slowdown. Again, I'm not an economist, I can't necessarily tell you, but from my feeling on the ground, as a citizen
As a
here.
consumer,
And as my own consumer out here, and then seeing the numbers that roll in as they do, that's my general feeling. I'm not in any way afraid of not making budget. It does concern me as far as surplus for fiscal '23. Now and I'll juxtapose that and move into the idea of expenditures. You have expenditures for the first quarter also in your packet. And we don't have a presentation for them, but just the general overarching feeling that we have for that is that our auto maintenance costs across the board are either over budget or trending that way. Our fuel budget is significantly under. We definitely,
what did we move our projected fuel prices to after the initial spike and then the partial pullback?
we budgeted right at that initial spike, so we took the worst case
We budgeted
scenario.
at the, with a 4 handle on it?
I think we budgeted at like $4.35 per gallon with current usage. So we didn't even talk about pulling our usage back at all.
But the year before is where we got killed.
Year before.
Yes, sir.
Which is probably why we maybe overswung the pendulum this year, but I do think,
Understandably.
that will help us because our auto maintenance costs are going to be a
Higher.
little bit hairy this year. Hopefully, we can make up that amount in the fuel savings.
But the police take-home cars, so that's adding, what Chief briefed us or answered last week was 289 plus 15. You remember that? The question was, after we get the ordered ones in and we drop the older ones off, what's our steady state fleet size look like? And the answer was 289 plus 15. So you just briefed, auto maintenance was one of the places we're taking a hit now, right?
Yes, sir.
And obviously if we're adding, what was it?
40 cars.
Huh?
40 cars.
40 plus 34 that are ordered but hadn't arrived. I mean, that's 75 more vehicles, and 2 we bought today, okay? So call it 75. Where does that auto maintenance show up? Does that show up in our larger auto maintenance fund expense line, or does that public safety portion of it stay inside fire and police?
It'll have to be eaten inside fire and police.
Okay,
Every department that has vehicles has their own auto maintenance line item. So
okay.
we track every single vehicle and the auto maintenance that's applied to that vehicle by department and then by their department's usage. So if a planning truck, so if one of the inspectors has an F-150 and they go and get their tire, they need new tires on their truck. The cost of those new tires is then applied to the planning department.
Gotcha.
And you will see it in their auto maintenance budgeted line item.
Okay.
So yes, we would expect, to see an increase in police and their auto maintenance and their fuel budget this upcoming year due to the take-home vehicle program.
Do you know what the fuel cost will be, the savings?
Well, we had a maintenance number that we talked about.
No, we're working on the analysis. We were planning on 6 months. Again, a three month review is telling you that like there's something else you need to look at. The 6 month review is really kind of where you start to say, maybe we can make some changes here and there. The 9 month mark is where we can make some really good changes and have a much better picture. A 3 month is just kind of an alert. I wouldn't say that we would do a heavy analysis right now to know savings for the whole year. It's just a little early.
What are the big takeaways do you want the finance committee to know from the quarterly review?
Again, just that our
On the
revenues.
expense side, we're talking about.
On the expense side, that the departments are holding except for auto maintenance. That is the one area
What's
that
driving? I mean,
what's-
what are they telling you driving? I mean, I know what that means, but I mean,
Oh, just
is
the
it just
cost.
older vehicles cost of, or do we just have a major
They're
repairs?
not old. They don't look like what I see driving.
So I would say that,
Driving more miles and doing, so I mean, what's going on?
it's really just the cost of the repair parts.
Everything is going up when it comes to that.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have, this is related but a little off. Do we have any notion of how much of our vehicle maintenance is completed in-house versus take it outside?
I don't know that off the top of my head. We can find
Because
that out.
if
We
you
do
take it
track that.
outside, then part of that cost increase is the pricing outside of here.
We do track that, but that's not something that we've pulled together, but we can maybe have that, especially if we're gonna continue this conversation of that specific line item being a problem.
Well, it sounds like we are.
We will look
We
at
can do
that.
that. Mhm.
It
Okay,
is
so I have a
probably-
question on
Yeah.
that. So we don't do our own maintenance? Like, I thought the police department did.
We do it for the majority of the, but there are some things that we can't
Okay,
do.
Typically, you'll do up to a certain level,
Okay,
in
gotcha.
all your basic routine maintenance stuff.
We change our
Like
oil,
oils
we
and
do like all of
brakes.
our brake work and like
Yeah.
our tire rotation. But then, of course, we do have some bigger pieces of equipment that we don't have specialized mechanics for.
Body work.
Okay, yeah.
Costs a lot of money.
And I do know that when we went to the sidearm garbage trucks, I do think they've got better training now, but when we went to the sidearm garbage trucks, our mechanics weren't necessarily trained in the repair work of that mechanical arm. So we had to send all of those out for, that special repair. Things like that are gonna be what he's talking about.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, or ladies, is there anything else you want to leave us with?
No worries, just things to think about.
Well,
I don't have anything else.
No, sir.
thank you. That was the last item on the agenda. Are there any other items to be brought before the finance committee, or is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Or are we
Second.
keeping you awake, President Johnson? Motion to adjourn?
I didn't,
I
he
second.
says.
All in favor say aye.